Excuse me if my throat goes a little bit wonky today, people. I can't help that. It's just the way it is. So, welcome to everybody here who's in the room, members, public, and everyone online. I've got to go through the normal chair's announcements first for hybrid meetings, so I'll do that first before we get moving. So here we go. Bear with me, please. And I better use the glasses, otherwise you might be hearing something you shouldn't. So, right, welcome everyone to the meeting. This meeting is taking place in the council chamber at Shepton Mallet, and we have members of the planning committee, officers, public speakers, and members of the public physically present in the chamber. We also have members of the public watching the meeting on Teams. Cameras within the council chamber allow us to film the meeting for viewers on Teams and also record the meeting. Therefore, any members of the public present should be aware that they may be recorded even if they are not participating in the meeting. If this causes you any concern, then please let me know now. No, everybody seems to be fine. Members who have brought their own device with them should ensure that their cameras are switched off and, very importantly, their device microphones and speakers are muted for the duration of the meeting. Otherwise, this causes feedback on the council sound system. Public speakers contributing to the meeting virtually should switch their cameras off and put their microphones on mute until they are invited to speak by the chair. It is not permitted for any other member of the public viewing by Teams to contribute to the meeting at any time. Should any member of the planning committee wish to speak, please raise your hand and catch the attention of myself, the Vice Chair Edric, the Legal Advisor Martin, or lead officers Tessa and Anna, who is with us today. When members in the chambers speak, remember to switch on your desk microphone so that all those in the attendance and viewing can hear you. Please do not use the chat function within Teams for anything. All contributions must be made verbally. Please, can all mobile phones be set to silent? Thank you very much. Right, okay, I'll go over to you now, Helen, for the apologies for the absence.
Thanks, Nick. So we've got 4 apologies from councillors Dawn Denton, Helen Kay, Adam Boyden and Alex Wiltshire, and we have councillor Philip Ham substituting for councillor Denton today.
Thank you very much for that, Helen. And next we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which start at page 17. Are we all ready? Yep. Okay, so page, hold on. Page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, page 22, page 23, page 24, page 25, page 26, page 27, and page 28. Okay, next we move on to...
So you need a proposer and a seconder.
Oh yeah, we need a proposer and a seconder, I forget that. Sometimes, thank you, Martin. And the seconder is?
Tony.
Is Tony. Okay, thank you. Right, so we'll...
We need to vote.
We need a vote on that as well, yeah. Okay, all in favour? Any abstentions? Any, Phil? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I don't think there are anybody against. That's great. Okay, now we can move on to agenda item. I think we're going to be on 4. 4, public question time now.
Declarations of interest.
Oh yeah, we have got a declaration of interest, haven't we? Yes, declaration of interest, please.
Declare an interest on item 9 on the agenda, and I'll leave the room while it's being discussed.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Anybody else with the declarations? No? Okay, now we're okay to move on then. Public question time where we have nobody. And then we'll go on to number 5, which is a planning application. I think that's Anna is doing that one.
Jenny.
No, it's not. It's Jenny. I got it here. Yeah, sorry, it's different there. Or I didn't see it properly.
Hey, thank you, Chair. Yep, so just get the presentation going. Okay, so this is an application at land off Barrington Road, Charterhouse. Have to wait for it to catch up. Okay, so the proposals for the demolition of an existing stable building and the erection of a dwelling house with associated access and track. So there is a extant consent on the site for the conversion of the stable buildings into a dwelling with the associated access and track. So that was granted February in 23. So that is, like I say, still extant. Okay, so this shows the location of the site. As you can see, it is quite remote, but the yellow circle shows where the site is itself. You can see Cheddar down in the bottom left corner of the screen. Okay, so this is a closer view of the site. Again, circled in red, that shows the existing stable buildings. There's a menage to the south, and the main road runs past the north of the site. There's also an existing residential property to the west. And the location plan, so the red line shows where the proposed access will come from. The existing access comes off of the where the main red square is on there. You'll see it clearly on a subsequent plan. So the new access is about 80 metres further east. Okay, so that shows where the existing access is, and also shows the existing stable building. So the main stable building is the L-shaped one to be demolished, but the other associated buildings, one to the north and one to the east of that, are also to be demolished. They're field shelters currently. And this shows the proposed site. So as you can see, it's largely a similar footprint to the stable buildings, just flipped slightly, and the removal of the other structures on site. It also shows that where the package treatment plant and the drainage field will be going as well. Okay, so this shows the visibility displays from the proposed access. As I said earlier, it does already have consent for this access as well, but the visibility will be improved by moving it away from that corner that you can see to the west of the existing access. Okay, so the proposed floor plans, it's a single story dwelling, so it's three bedrooms, and then open plan living space. And the proposed elevations, again, as you see, it's quite similar in appearance to the existing stable building. It's timber clad, single story, limited height. Okay, so photos of the sites. This shows the existing stable building and some of the associated structures, the field shelters that are there. And this is taken from the existing access. Again, more photos of the existing stable building, the east elevation and the rear of the stable. the interior of the stable. And these are the other structures on site, so they're just timber field shelters and another stable building. This is the area for the proposed access track, so it will run from the gravelled area to the left of the picture, and the next photos will show where it accesses the highway. So the vegetation you see there will be where the access comes onto the highway. The photo on the left shows where the track will run back towards the stable buildings. And this is the current visibility from the existing access. So the proposed access will be moved further away from the corner that you can see on the right-hand photo. So it will offer greater visibility in that respect. Okay, and that's the end of my presentation. It's recommended for approval as per the officer report. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. We have one public speaker, I believe, Dan. Please, and you have 3 minutes. Please, this is your.
Thank you, Chair. The application site has been used for the keeping of horses for over 30 years, and as such has a series of stables, horse shelters and a riding arena on the land. The stables and arena constitute brownfield previously developed site in this regard. In February 23, permission was granted to convert the largest concrete block stable into a 2-bed dwelling. This permission remains extant until 2026. And as the Planning Officer's report explains, this is the fallback position against which this current application should be considered. The proposed changes in comparison with the approved scheme are relatively modest. The dwelling would be made slightly larger, including having one additional bedroom to make it 3 beds. The dwelling would also be moved approximately 10 metres further east than the already approved scheme. The recited dwelling would have less of an impact on the only neighbouring property to the site as a result, and would provide a much better living environment for future occupiers being away from the shared boundary. The proposed dwelling would have a simple rural character, being constructed in natural stone and timber under a clay tiled roof. The house would remain single storey as already approved. The footprint of the new dwelling and its garden would not extend beyond the existing built up area occupied by the stables and arena, and the development will be well screened in the wider landscape by the existing trees and planting, including along the roadside. Proposed access is a duplicate of that approved in 2023, and there are no other objections, including in relation to ecology and drainage. We are pleased to see that there has been no objection from Priddy Parish Council, nor from any neighbours, and so we hope the committee can support this application in line with your Planning Officer's recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And very quick. Right, we're lucky that we have both of the divisional members here on our board this evening, or this afternoon, sorry. So we'll start with Edric, please.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this one. I know this site well. It's good to see the access being moved a bit further away from the corner, but that road's governed by double white lines anyway, so there are no opportunities to overtake there anyway, even though the road's quite busy. I think this tidies up the area, and I'm very happy to go along with the officer's recommendation to approve this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Edric. Tony, your turn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to go along with Councillor Hobbs's recommendation. I think it tidies up the site. It's become obviously run down over the last few years, and this will finish it off properly, and I think will look good. I have been to have a look, and this is definitely an improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I'm opening it up to members now. Anybody have anything to say? No? Phil?
I would just like to say I support all what's been said. I know the site. I think what's already been said is good, and I would propose that we go along with approval.
Thank you, Phil. So that was the proposer, and
I'll second Councillor Ham.
thank you, Edric. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. One more last chance for anybody who wishes to say anything. No? Okay. We can go to a vote. Okay. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
Okay, that's unanimous, so that's passed. Thank you. Right, now we will move on to number 6, our planning application, which is the barn at Lower Shots, Ashmore Drove, Bleedney, Somerset. I'm not sure who's doing this one. We'll just check. Jennifer again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, me again. Okay, so as you said, this is barn at Lower Shots, Ashmore Drove, Bleedney. The proposal is to convert the barn into a dwelling with the erection of a two-story side extension following demolition of other barns. Again, there is a previous consent on the site under the form of a prior notification for a Class Q for the conversion of the barn, which remains extant. But because they're intending to extend the barn as well, this is coming as a full application, and the extent of the extension does make it fall outside the remit of DP22, which is why it's come to planning board as a departure from the plan. Okay, so this shows the location of the barn. See the yellow circle. Wells is off in the top right-hand corner there. Bleedney runs along that road to the north. It's, again, quite a remote location, but like I say, there is an consent already on the site. So this is a closer aerial view. It's not too clear on there, but the barn that's being retained is the tiled roof barn within that yellow circle. If you can see my mouse, so it's that barn right here, and then the barns adjacent to it will be demolished and replaced with the extension. Okay, so the location plan, the access is existing off of Ashmore Drove. It's proposed to utilise the same access that's used for the existing farm on site and the farmhouse. Okay, so existing and proposed site plan. Sorry, I think my system has just crashed. I'll try and present again.
For you who are online, the people who are online, we've just got a slight technical hitch.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so existing and proposed site plans. The existing on the left shows where the barns are currently. So again, it's the barn. Oh, sorry, it's the barn that has my cursor over it, which is the one that's going to be retained. This one. The barns either side will be demolished, and then on the right hand side it shows the proposed. So barns to be demolished and then replaced with this large two-story extension. Also shows where the curtilage will fall and the parking spaces to the side. Okay, and I should just mention, yeah, it does also show that there's a footpath that runs through the site. I mean, this footpath is currently blocked by these barns, so this proposal will also open up that footpath again. So existing ground floor, just a simple open barn, and then the proposed. So the existing footprint is this section on the left of the proposed ground floor, and then the extension will be coming off to the right, and then the extension will be coming off to the left side. Proposed first floor, again, like I say, is two-story extension. And the existing elevations, the barn to be retained is this one here, and this one with the small dormer. The other barn surrounding it will be demolished as part of the proposal, and the proposed applications. So, this is the element that's the existing barn. Again, this is the existing barn, and these bits off to the side are the extension. So this is also the side of the extension. So photos of the site. So it's the red brick barn that's being retained. it's the barns surrounding it, these more modern construction that are being demolished. Okay, so this is the cattle yard that lies to the front of the barn. This will be removed and replaced with residential curtilage, so it'll actually remove a lot of hard standing from the sites. Okay, again, the red brick is being retained. These barns surrounding it are all being demolished. This is the rear of the red brick building. And again, these are going to be demolished. The ones to the rear and across this track aren't part of the application site. The interior of the barns to be demolished. As you can see, they're all fairly modern construction. And more interiors. And this is the existing access, which will also be utilised for this proposal. Okay, and the recommendation is for approval as per the officer report. Thank you.
And thank you. Public speakers, I believe it's Dan, Mr. Foster once more. So you have another 3 minutes, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. Lower Shotts Farm has been owned by the applicant's family for around 130 years. The applicant and her family, including 4 children, therefore wish to live at the family farm to maintain the mutual support network with their parents who live at the dwelling to the west of this application site. In January 2023, approval was granted to convert the redundant 19th century red brick milking parlour into a 2-bed dwelling. However, to accommodate the applicant's family, the proposal is to now demolish the modern steel framed and concrete block work constructed barns that lie immediately adjacent to the red brick building in order to erect an extension to enlarge the approved house. The new addition to the retained red brick barn would have a modern contemporary appearance, having black timber-clad walls under a zinc roof. As the plan officer's report says, this design approach would complement the red brick barn and would not appear out of character with the area. The proposed dwelling would have a much smaller footprint than the modern barns which are to be demolished, and this would lead to an enhancement to the immediate setting. As the officer's report also explains, given there is already an approval in place to convert the building, the revised scheme raises no new issues in relation to highway safety, ecology, flood risk, or any other material planning considerations. There would be no harm to the immunity of the nearest neighbour, and indeed no objections have been raised by any local residents at all. Wookey Parish Council recommend the application is approved, and your plan officer's recommendation is the same too. We therefore hope you can support the scheme on this basis.
Thank you, Dan. The divisional member for this division does not sit on the planning board, and I don't believe they're online. I'm not sure. So I think we will go straight to the members then. So who would like to open the debate? No one? Ah, okay. Martin D.
So just to reassure you, looks fine to me.
Okay, thank you. So can we have a Phil? Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a proposal from me. I would recommend approval. It's very similar to the last one we just done, and I can see no harm. So I would propose.
Right. Thank you, Phil, for proposing, and thank you, Edric, I believe, for seconding.
Yes, Chair, I'll second Councillor Ham again.
Okay. So one last call for anybody to say it, to, have a say. No? So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous, so we don't need to go any farther. Thank you. That's that one done. Well done, Jennifer.
Your turn.
Next, we'll move on to number. Let me get my glasses on. Oh no, I've got it right here now. Number 7, which I believe is Anna. I've got it right this time. Anna is in charge of this one.
Thanks, Chair. So this presentation relates to a plot of land off Mardis Lane in West Lidford. The application is seeking full planning permission for the erection of a single dwelling with associated access and parking. So here is the application site outlined in red on the left-hand plan. As you can see, it was it's originally part of the garden associated with Hire House, which is here with my cursor, and a property known as Squires is immediately to the west of the red line boundary. The site. It's on the outskirts of the village and it's just outside the designated development limits, which are shown here in red on the second plan on the right hand side. So that massive arrow is indicating where the site is. Just to put it into context, here's a couple of photos of the site. The first photo on the left is taken from the high street looking down Mardis Lane towards the site. The Hire House property, the property on the right of the previous plan, is just on the right there, sorry. And the third photo, or sort of top right, just shows the plot of land looking across the site from Hire House End towards Squires, the other property. Oh, I've now got a problem.
Yeah, just for the people online, we have a slight technical problem again. These things happen.
Now you can hear me again. The bottom photo just shows Squires, which is the property that was built to the west of the site, just so you can get a feel for the materials and the design in the immediate context. And then finally, the last photo is just looking the other direction down Mardis Lane towards the high street with the application site on the left. The next plan is just quickly showing the proposed site plan with the access off the lane. As you can see, the layout and positioning within the plot is similar to the one, the neighbouring property to the west called Squires. Just quickly put this photo up of the proposed floor plans. Essentially, the property will have an open plan kitchen, living room, separate utility room, 3 bedrooms, a couple of bathrooms, toilet and an integral garage. Sounds like I'm selling it. Next slide. Here are just the proposed elevations. The design proposes timber cladding, blue limestone and a grey zinc roof. This is quite a contemporary design, but it's considered acceptable on the basis that it's a fairly well screened context away from the high street next to a residential building of a sort of similar design. And then finally, this is just my last slide showing some section drawings just to illustrate how the property height relates to the neighbouring properties. As you can see, it's on slightly higher ground than its neighbour, but the ridge line is broadly in line with the property to the west and also to the east. So hopefully this has provided a useful summary of the site and the application. For the reasons outlined in my report, I'm recommending that the application be approved as a departure from the development plan because it's outside the housing development boundary, subject to conditions. Finally, it's come to my attention that my report incorrectly says that 2 letters of objection were received during the consultation period. In fact, there was only 1 letter of objection received. Nevertheless, it doesn't alter my recommendation, and the summary of the objection comment on page 73 of the agenda pack is still correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Brilliant. We have only the one public speaker again, and it's Mr. Foster. This is quickly turning into the Dan Foster show. Okay.
The last time, you'll be pleased to know. This site immediately abuts the development limit of West Lidford, which is designated as a village in the local plan where some housing growth is expected to occur. The application site comprises of a generously sized infill plot located between Higher House to the west and the property known as Squires to the east. Whilst we acknowledge the comments of the Parish Council, we would respectfully say that they do not bear scrutiny when assessed in the light of all relevant material planning considerations. In the first instance, we would point out that, contrary to the Parish Council comments, no part of the application site lies within a green or open space designated in the local plan. Furthermore, in terms of the character of the area, it is material to note that when the neighbouring property Squires was approved on appeal in 2016, the inspector said, and I quote, "The overall footprint and scale of the proposed dwelling would be commensurate with that of the existing dwellings in the vicinity and would result in an acceptable form of development. The dwelling subject of the application before you today sits on a larger plot than Squires, and as a single-storey dwelling has a lower ridge height than both Squires and the nearest listed building, which is Higher House. Your conservation officer raises no objections to the scheme, and amongst his comments said that, and again I quote, "Overall, the house is of a good quality design and its choice of blue lias stone and timber cladding is appropriate for the setting. Ultimately, the design is of a better quality than a similarly simple design led by historicism." In summary, both the council's conservation officer and the senior plan officer considered the scheme would result in no harm to the character of the area or the setting of the nearest listed buildings. This approach is consistent with the appeal decision relating to Squires, which lies adjacent. In terms of highway safety matters, Mardy's Lane provides vehicular access to only 2 existing dwellings, a small private stable and periodically to the village sewage treatment works. Mardy's Lane is otherwise a no-through road and so is a quiet, slow-speed traffic environment, and accessing the new dwelling would only require driving less than 70 metres along a straight section of the lane. A single new dwelling in this context would not be prejudicial to highway safety. Overall, the development is on an infill plot abutting the development limits of the village, and given the council's lack of 5-year housing land supply, is acceptable in principle. The conservation officer agrees that a contemporarily designed dwelling that has high energy efficiency qualities would fit in with the character of the area. The planning officer recommends that the application is approved and says there are no technical objections to refuse the application. We hope you can support the scheme on that basis too.
Lovely, thank you, Dan. Very good. And next we go to the ward member or division members, and we do have one of them here. So Claire, if you would like to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. If I may ask my committee colleagues to take a closer look at this with me. First of all, just want to and assist me on the thinking with it. The opposition to it has probably been played down a little bit, but it's the parish council, and the parish council really is the voice of the community. They do come together for matters like this, and then the other comment in disagreement with the planning officers, the neighbour. So they are significant, I think, to be considered. So the main, taking a closer look at it, and this isn't an order of importance, but as it comes into my head, you notice that the path is very narrow going down to it, and there's supposed to be 4 parking spaces down there. That's the first thing. It has been mentioned about 4 listed buildings around it, and the comments are that the design isn't in keeping with it. So that's worth considering, although that was, don't want to sound disrespectful, but that was sort of played down. Like Nick, I've got a bit of a bug as well, so sorry if I'm sounding a bit so that has been sort of highlighted as an issue. That old sticky subject of it being outside the settlement boundary has come up in the comments, but we've got this how it's understood that the council doesn't have its 5-year housing supply, and I'm sure our legal advisor will give us a view on that again. But the thing is, it's almost like, well, do we let everything happen everywhere? So I just would like your consideration on and listening to the voices that are there, local, and I know that this parish council aren't going to voice their views for the sake of it. They are actually very considered. So I welcome a debate on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Martin, you were named. Did you want to come in?
Yes, Chair, I can. Just in relation to developments that are outside of development limits, as we've debated in previous meetings, because we're in a situation in the East area where we don't have a 5-year housing land supply, we're in a position which is called the tilted balance in the NPPF. And what that means is that unless you can identify harm, and I'll find the exact phrase in the NPPF in a minute, the mere fact that it is outside of development limits on its own, without any other harms arising from that development, would not, in my advice, be sufficient on its own to refuse the application. I'll find the paragraph in the NPPF for you and come back on that, Chair, but that still remains my advice.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Claire, I hope that covers up your thing. Would you like to come back?
Would like to look at the appearance and the suitability of the little path. It looks more or less not much bigger than a footpath, doesn't it, where those cars are going down? So that's what I'd like us to consider as to suitability of that for this application.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Okay, I'll go to Martin. Would you like to come back again?
Just very quickly, just stop that. The relevant paragraph in NPPF is paragraph 11D, where that says where our policies are effectively out of date because we don't have a 5-year housing land supply. You should only refuse applications if any adverse impacts of doing so would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. That's your test, significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the development.
Okay, thank you, Martin. I think we go to Benty first.
Okay, do that. Do Benty, Martin and Susie.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it very difficult. Councillor Solly is calling for the backup of her colleagues, which must be us. But where are the evidence from those people, all these people in the village that are against? At least they could have sent one representative. I would have thought up to try and help fight the corner, or Councillor Solly, that is the ward councillor for the area. She will have to do her best fight because it is your patch. So you got to tell us everything that the people you represent has not been here to tell.
Okay, thank you, Benty. Martin is next. Martin D, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Vanna might answer this. I'm not quite sure that I know what you mean or what is meant by the site is backfill and not of the preferred linear nature. Could you explain that to me? That's what Lidford on the Foss Parish Council have said. The site is backfill. I don't think I know what backfill is. I can guess, but I don't want to.
I think what they're getting at there is that it's back like land development, you know, it's like a kind of infill development, as in it's the back of an existing property. You know, the first slide that I showed where it's higher house, it's kind of the sort of rear bit of their garden that's obviously been separated off at some point. You can still get through it from the back of high house, but it's kind of separated off by a hedge, like a thick hedge that you kind of walk through, and it's quite clear when you're out on site that it's been separated physically. I think that's what they mean by
Yeah,
that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a vague, it seems quite vague to me.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Anna. Susie, you're next.
Hello. I haven't spoken to this parish council, so I can only guess what they're saying. But I think historically, when people talk about back building, they talk about kind of building behind other buildings. But when they mention also linear, I'm guessing what they're saying is that this property is not on the roadside, it's set back into the plot a bit. Yeah, please, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if whether this one's the helpful one or possibly, yeah. Is it this one? Is that one more helpful, do you think? So you've got the Squire's property here. It's a little bit, I can try and zoom in, but I don't know whether it will let me. Oh, it may do. That's exciting. So here's Higher House, which is off the high street, that fronts onto the high street. And then you've got Mardis Lane, the lane running along here, which takes you to the property Squires, which was approved fairly recently. And obviously, so in a sense, it's at the rear of Higher House, which fronts onto the high street, but technically it's also kind of on the side because it's going to front onto Mardis Lane. So it's kind of in the middle. So it's sort of 90 degrees changing the angle of the development, if that makes sense. It's not a very good description, but hopefully that explains kind of how it fits within the sort of local context.
Okay, I think you described that quite well, actually, Anna. Susie?
On that plan, does it show the listed buildings that they're referring to or not?
No, I didn't include the list of buildings on the plan, but basically I had a look looking earlier. So Higher House, if you hopefully you can see my cursor going. So the property that owns the land, I believe, is grade 2 listed, and then there's a barn associated with Hunts. Let me just get the name right. Barn adjoining Huntswell House is grade 2 listed. Which is up here. So it's separated by, it's gone, separated by an agricultural field. And then Bridge House just to the east, to the east of that Huntswell House, sorry, is also listed. So basically we've considered it all in the appraisal, but because of the distance between them and the agricultural fields line between them, it's kind of not considered that there's going to be a huge level of harm as a result of that.
Okay, thank you. So basically, are we not in a position where we're able to say, could you come up with a design that's more in keeping with the listed buildings in the immediate environment?
I think the conservation officer's comments, which I kind of repeat in my wording, is that essentially if the dwelling were constructed along the high street, you may well take the view that it was incongruous and not suitable for that area, but because it's kind of down the lane next to the existing Squires property, well screened and removed, sort of separated, for want of a better word, from the high street properties, then the contemporary design is acceptable, and the kind of quality of the materials, so the timber and the blue limestone, is all considered to be acceptable in that particular context. But the conservation officer admits that if you took that house and put it further, kind of brought it into the high street, it would not be acceptable. But in that particular context, it's okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so you're happy, Susie? You've been explained to you? You might not be happy, but it's been explained to you properly. Okay. Hang on, Benty. I've got to go to Edric first. He had his name down first.
Thank you, Chair. I view this in relation to the property already built to the west of it. So filling in this plot seems to make perfect sense. And if there's access already down what I can see to be a small lane, if the access is okay to get to the property further down the lane, then it's obviously suitable to get to this one. I don't have a problem with this. I don't even view it as backfill. I know what's meant by backfill is when people sort of say it's akin to garden grabbing. This isn't. If it's accessed separately off a lane, and rather than going through the property and creating an access through somebody's garden, this is accessed off a separate lane. And it's a very similar building to the one that was approved on appeal a few years ago. So I think it fits in perfectly within the setting. I can see why it's been recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you, Edric. So, so that's a proposal from you. Yeah.
It's not a proposal. I'm just waiting to.
Okay. So we've got Benty. We're back to Benty.
Propose it according to the recommendation of the officers, but now Councillor Hobbs has done it, then I will second it. Oh, all right, so I will propose it then, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Hoyt has proposed, and Councillor Hobbs, Edric has seconded. Okay, that we go with the officer recommendation. Would anybody else like to speak? Barry?
Could I just ask the planning officer, please, Chairman? We've removed, or they have removed, permitted development rights from this property. Now, when we've had estates of houses that have been crammed into little gardens before, and we say, can you remove permitted development rights? And the answer has always been no. But in this case, it seems okay to remove those rights. Perhaps we could just have an explanation why. Thank you, Chairman.
I think it was just felt in this location that it would be appropriate to ensure that the property didn't get significantly bigger, or we ended up with buildings in the front, just merging it into the kind of surroundings, like we say, because of that separation of built development between this property and, say, the surrounding list of buildings. So it's just to have that extra layer of control to ensure that, you know, it is kind of sitting within the plot as it's proposed at the moment, rather than kind of just changing without permission in the future. It's just to add a layer of control on.
Okay, you happy with that, Barry? Okay. Okay, I'm going to come back now quickly. Would anybody? Phil?
Does Councillor Sully want to come back?
Yeah, that was where I was going to go to, actually. So, Claire, would you like to come back in again?
Thank you, Chair. I think that it would be difficult to find the harms outweighing the good of the planning application. I'm not comfortable with it, really. So yeah, I'm not going to put anything out there, a proposal out there for to oppose the decision, but because I can't see we can legally go forward on it. So thank you.
No, thank you, Claire. That's good, but it is good that you put forward your opinions and the opinions of some of the people in your division. So that's good. So we'll move to the vote then. No one else wants them. All those in favour of the officer recommendation?
7.
All those against? And those abstaining?
3.
3. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you. Okay. Well, Mr. Foster's had 3 out of 3. He must be a happy man. Now we will move on to land at Stockhill Road, Chilcompton, Radstock, and that's the Mendip Hills division. And Carlton, this is yours. Let's see what your luck is like today.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is for the erection of one single infill dwelling situated along Stockhill Road in Chilcompton. Give you an idea, Stockhill Road being a very long road. There's a lot of ribbon development all the way up and down Stockhill Road. The applicant's property is what used to be the old school, and that's been converted to a dwelling quite a number of years ago now. quite a large dwelling, but they do have a very generous garden, and they hope to erect a dwelling in the side. You see an aerial photograph, so you can see all the development along Stockhill Road. To the north is the main village of Chilcompton, and Stockhill Road goes right out into the countryside, finally joining up with Binnicker and Coney Slade. That's the current layout of the old school building that's now a dwelling house. The access on the left there, but there is also an existing access on the right, which is hopefully going to be utilised by the proposed dwelling. So all the area to the right there is where the plot is going to be to site the new dwelling. So this is the layout of it. So it's a sort of 1.5-storey building that's designed to resemble the barn next door there. There's a hay barn next door, and there's an open carport to the front, which also mimics a little agricultural shed on the neighbouring site as well. So these are the plans. So the ground floor plan, and then up in the loft space, all the bedrooms, etc. It's difficult to see on the right hand side, but there's some artistic impressions of what the building would be. It's quite a contemporary design. Glass elevations front and back. So this is the elevation drawings, front, back, side. So mimics the form of the old school building, although it is 1.5 stories, but it's no higher than the neighbouring hay barn. So it sits quite comfortably in sight. You'll see the little carport building there that's going to be erected towards the front of the property. So the top left picture shows the part of the garden looking from the garden back towards Stockhill Road, and the fence that's along there now, and that's essentially where the building will be created. The photograph on the right is taken from the fence from backing onto Stockhill Road, looking up the garden. You see the agricultural hay barn there on the right hand side. And then there's a street photograph showing the 2 access points and the existing school building there. Right, that sums things up. So the application, you'll see from the report, is obviously a departure from development plan policy, the site being outside development limits, but only just outside, and just outside of Chilcompton, which boasts numerous services and facilities, including buses and bus routes, etc. So there's just a little walk into the village, accessible to quite a number of service facilities and employment, etc. So we're not considering it to be a remote location, although it is technically in the countryside. So we've weighed up the benefits of the scheme, and we consider that in this case, having regard for, Martin's already explained, the 11D of the local plan, and we don't have a 5-year housing supply, that the benefits in this case outweigh its unsustainable location being, in all other respects, it's acceptable in terms of highway safety, design, appearance, neighbouring amenity, etc. There have been no objections raised from neighbouring properties or the parish council, who fully support the scheme. So we are recommending to the board that we approve this development. Thank you.
And thank you. We have 0 public speakers on this one, so we'll go straight to the ward division councillors, who are both here. So we'll go to Edric first.
I'm going first.
You go first. E is before F.
Thank you kindly, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Carl on this one. It's it may be outside the development limit, but just Chilcompton's Stockhill Road is a mixture of all sorts of developments. So there's no one particular built type of form in the road as it's developed over many years. And as Carlton said, Chilcompton is mine and Tony's metropolis. It's the biggest village on the Mendips. It's quite well served by transport. It's got a doctor's surgery, albeit a busy one. It's got a bus route still. It's got shops. I have no problem with this at all. It ticks lots of boxes where in the past we've criticised developments for not having bus routes, not having employment. There's lots in Chilcompton. It fits in very well. I'm rabbiting anyway. I think it should be approved.
Okay, thank you, Edric. And I'll come to you, Tony. I should have said E is before T and not E is before F. So
Anthony is before Edric.
And Anthony is before Edric. Okay. Right, Tony, your turn.
Thank you, Chair. I must admit, when I first saw this, looked at the drawings that I'm looking at here now, I thought it smacked a little bit of overdevelopment. When I went and have a drive up there to have a look, there's more room there than appears on here. I think it's a excellent design. It fits. As Edric has said, that road's a very busy road. Chilcompton is a village that Edric and I have become very familiar with over the last 3 months. I have no problem with supporting the officers' recommendation with this one, and in fact I would go as far as to propose that we do so.
Thank you, Tony. So you're proposing and Edric is seconding that we go with officer recommendation. But before we go to a vote, is there anybody who would like to speak? Do we have more members of the committee who would like to say something? Phil.
I know the area very well. I agree with what's been said. I do remember that there was a planning application not so long ago in Stockhill that was turned down by the planning inspector that Chilcompton had already had too many houses. But I guess one way or the other is not going to make a lot of difference. So I just want to go back to the diagram of where it actually is in the road, because I think, if I'm right, it's right next door to a farm. And I was thinking, is this property going to be too close to the farm, i.e. pigs, cows, noise, all that goes on with the farm? But I just want to see the diagram again.
Did you do that?
I'm not quite sure if I'm in the right place. I think I know the farm, but I'm not quite sure if I'm in the right place.
Yeah, there's a farm there.
But I just want to raise that point that I'm not objecting, or I'm just raising the point.
No, I fully understand why you raised the point, Phil.
The hay barn is there right next to where it's going to be built.
Yeah.
What is in the hay barn is maybe the question, or is it cows, is it hay, or is it pigs, or what? Because I know that can cause problems in further years. That is the working farm there, isn't it?
Very small farm,
Quite a bit going on. That's the farm.
So it's quite a small holding farm just here. The immediate building to the site is the hay barn. Right. I did get environmental health to have a close look at this because the council some years ago refused an application for a dwelling on the site based on there was insufficient information submitted with the application to determine whether there would be any impact from the activity on the farm. This time there was information submitted by the applicant. That was all taken into consideration by the Environmental Protection Officer. Plus, he's also looked at any complaints received from by the council from any other properties in the area with regard to the operations on the farm and how they impact on other neighbouring properties in the area. As you see, there's quite a number of properties that are quite close. Nothing's been received on on the council's records from anyone. So in this case, on balance, we consider that the location is fine, as is the school at the moment. The old school conversion at the moment, immediately next door to the activities there.
Okay, thanks for that information, Carlton, and thanks, Phil, for raising it. Barry, you've got a question.
It's actually my very first school. This is actually my very first school, which enables me to say that I used to go to Downside because it was Downside Junior School when it was a school. I think it's stretching it a little bit to say the development mimics the hay barn next door, because the hay barn next door might be gone tomorrow. And it is, as Philip said, a very busy farm out there. And you could see developments that are going to impact on this building development on this particular site. I know there's nothing you can do about it because the hay barn is there today and that's what we're looking at, but it is a consideration for the future. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Does anybody else wish to make a comment, or are we all finished? Okay, excuse me. Okay, we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour of going along with officer recommendations?
Unanimous, Chair.
That's unanimous, so that's passed. Thank you very much. And next we move on to, I believe it's Carlton again. And if I'm correct, it's the Duke of Cumberland Inn at Edford Hill, Holcombe, where I believe Tony is going to leave us now. Declaration of interest and not staying around. Okay. Okay, Carlton, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, so the application before us is an application to vary conditions at the Duke of Cumberland in Edford Hill in Holcombe. In 2020, planning permission was granted to extend the existing public house there, and you'll see a descriptions there of the conversion of the free house into a farm shop and kitchen cafe with attached micro pub and side extensions for additional seating area, first floor alterations, straight to separate staff accommodations plots. Within that permission, there were a number of restrictive conditions, or all sorts of conditions controlling the development and how the development would operate in the future. Two of those conditions relate to delivery hours to and from the premises, and condition 9 regarding the use of the car park. So I'll just run you through it. So there's a location plan, and obviously the main Duke of Cumberland on the right there, and then the two squares on the left-hand side are the parking areas. Probably shows it a bit better. So when planning permission was first granted, the car park only just met standards for the operation of the pub. So it was important that we ensured that the parking spaces that were available on the site were very much retained. Hence the condition was regarding restricting the use of it just for car parking area only, and not any other uses on the parking area. Very important that the pub retained as many car parking spaces as possible. Move on. Right, so the applicants come in with some justifications. He would like condition 3 with regards to deliveries. You'd like the condition removed in its entirety. So the condition asks that there be no deliveries before 7 o'clock in the morning and after 8 o'clock at night. You'll see the explanation below. Consider that smaller businesses require them to deliver earlier on in the morning, etc. Both, obviously, the condition was put on there back in 2020 for good reason in terms of protecting neighbouring amenity. There were a number of properties opposite the pub, and it was felt that any deliveries before 7 o'clock in the morning would have a significant impact on the amenity of those. So we're very reluctant to allow that condition to be removed. With regard to the parking area, again, the applicant is seeking to move the bin store from the main pub site across the road to the parking site. It was agreed on the previous application. Obviously, we make the maximum spaces available in the car park to meet the needed parking spaces requirement for the business. The applicant agreed to that, but now he seems to want to relocate the bin store back to the car park, reducing the number of parking spaces in the car park. And again, having knock-on effect in terms of highway safety and a loss of parking. Already a problem in the area with, people suggesting, parish suggesting that people park on the highway, etc. Is it just a photograph of one of the main car park there? You did all hopefully receive some documentations from one of the neighbours who's provided a whole lot of other photographs with regard to how the sites could operate, etc. I won't go into those, and I haven't uploaded them onto my report. But essentially, the knock-on effect of the two conditions being removed from the permission altogether would mean you create knock-on effects of further harm. So it ends up with 4 reasons why the council considered that the removal of those conditions is like significant harm in terms of highway safety and neighbouring amenity. And so we're recommending that the conditions aren't removed and are retained as they are. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, for this application, we do have public speakers, and the first one will be Sally Robertson, she has here that she's representing Giles Simmons. Please.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name's Sally Robertson, and I'm speaking on behalf of Giles Simmons of Brook Cottage, Holcombe. Mr. Simmons has asked me to speak on his behalf today. Mr. Simmons was understandably extremely upset by the condition of the accumulated detritus and the frequent losses of access or egress to his property due to the refuse lorries and dray frequently blocking Bar Lake Road. Mr. Simmons has provided councillors with a series of photographs that clearly show the extent of the problem. As the photographs prove, the bins clearly need to be closer to the premise in order to be monitored. Since being returned to their old home beside the premise, they are better managed and controlled, and the bin lorries no longer need to enter the car park. Further to this, I would like to bring to the councillors' attentions that a prescriptive easement was already well established when the applicant purchased the premise. This easement must be considered whenever any changes are made to the burdened land. Brook Cottage owners and visitors had manoeuvred and used the car park unhindered since the car parking area was dug out in 1962. Charles Britton, the landowner, gave permission for the end of his field to be dug out to create a small parking area to benefit the pub, the neighbours, and to provide and to improve drainage. This helped solve the flooding issues in Edford. Drop curves were put into place on the edge of the car park, directly in line with the neighbours' driveways, to facilitate the use of the space by neighbours. It has been used by the pub, Bar Lake Road residents, and many dog walkers since 1962. This permitted development has already caused substantial interference with that easement. The vast increase in traffic within the car park and a lack of parking spaces make it increasingly difficult, if not impossible, for Mr. Simmons and his guests to manoeuvre, turn, enter and exit his property. The bins further reduce the already very limited turning area. This creates further actionable interference. with the enjoyment of the easement and the neighbours' ability to pass over Bar Lake Road and the parking area unhindered. Deliveries. Briefly, I want to mention the deliveries. As is clear in the provided photographs, the premise mainly uses national and international wholesalers, including RD Johns, Bidfood, and Total Produce for most of their stock. They also receive several dray deliveries every week from many different breweries. The vehicles range in size, from large refrigerated vans to massive lorries. All these vehicles are extremely audible within Brook Cottage. They are very disturbing, and Mr. Simmons is frequently woken by deliveries that begin arriving from 6:30 a.m. in direct breach of Planning Condition 3. Mr. Simmons has never been disturbed or woken by a local farmer delivering anything. Local deliveries of home-produced goods would be far less intrusive, but is sadly not the norm. Just about to, yeah, I've just got a little bit. As a successful businesswoman myself, who owns several shops all across Somerset, I'd like to assure the council that it's very simple to schedule deliveries at a time that is appropriate for your business. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. restriction is very generous.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And next we have Phil Gate from the Parish Councillor, please. Mr. Gate, you have 3 minutes as well. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. You'll remember that at your December meeting, the committee granted planning permission for a new car park to be built to provide more parking for this site. That application was submitted on the 10th of August 2022, and if it had been determined promptly, that car park could have been constructed last summer, removing any issue over the use of the existing car park. At that meeting, I pointed out that Holcombe has very few facilities, but it does have the Duke of Cumberland, which has been extended and modernised to become the Holcombe Farm Shop and Kitchen. It is now the only pub in Holcombe that is open all week, where people can meet for just a drink and a chat. It has an amazing restaurant and caters for young families with a playground. It's the only shop in Holcombe and provides much needed local employment. It's a great asset to the village. Reading the officer's report on this application, I suspect that some of you will agree with his conclusions based on the evidence presented. However, this application was submitted over a year ago on the 31st of January 2023. The comments from Environmental Health, based on an email from a neighbour, were made on the 21st of February 2023. The 3 objections by the owners of one of the neighbouring houses were made on the 14th of February 2023, and these included photos taken in September 2020. I believe that it is unacceptable that you're being asked to make a decision based on this out-of-date information. Following the relaunch of the farm shop, there were management issues arising from the large increase in the business, particularly over the handling of waste, as you'll have seen in the photos. However, it is clear on visiting and passing the site regularly that these have now been resolved. I hope that you've all visited the site, seen the current situation, and will approve this application. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And next we have the applicant, I believe, Mr. Toby Brett.
Good afternoon. I'm Toby Brett, and I've owned and operated the Duke of Cumberland with the Holcombe Farm Shop and Kitchen for 14 years. I've successfully run this business for the first 11 years without any complaint or disagreement from the council, authorities or neighbours. This application has received 25 comments of support and is supported by the parish council. It has received 3 objections, all from the same household, with one person objecting twice using different names. In fact, we have 4 neighbouring properties in the immediate vicinity, and only one of these households doesn't use our business. This is also the only neighbour who regularly complains to the council and anyone else who will listen. I have applied to vary these 2 conditions that were imposed during the planning permission. The first condition, condition 3, delivery hours. The reason? To safeguard the amenities of adjoining occupiers. Some suppliers deliver before we are open. These are light deliveries, including milk and fresh produce. We have asked all of our suppliers not to deliver before 7 a.m, and there is a note stating this on their delivery instructions. This is sufficient most of the time, but on the odd occasion, when a different driver may not have read the instructions, attempts to deliver, my neighbour will come out of their house, as they can't see the delivery spot from their property, and send photos to the council. The delivery drivers always turn off their engines and only delivers fresh produce at this time. This does not cause any harm to neighbouring properties. The council has recently written to the neighbouring properties to ask if we cause disturbance and have only received positive feedback on how we run our business and that we do not cause them disturbance. The second condition, parking. Reason, to ensure sufficient parking is provided and approved development in the interest of public safety. I've stored bins in my car park since I bought the property in 2010. I was not aware that this condition would stop me from doing this. After a breach of conditions notice served on me in 2022, my bins are now located near the entrance of my rear garden and can be seen from the inside of the property. With permission granted for my new overflow car park, returning the bins to the original location will not have an impact on the public highway. Paragraph 206 of the National Planning Framework states that planning conditions should only be imposed where they are necessary, relevant, enforceable, precise, and reasonable in all other respects. These conditions are not reasonable and adversely affect the way I run my business. By removing these conditions, the council and I will save time, effort and expense by not having to field malicious complaints, contest enforcement notices, planning contravention notices, breach of condition notices, all of which I've endured for the past 2 years. This pub has successfully managed without these conditions for the last 150 years. So I hope today common sense will prevail and they are removed. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Okay, we have come to the end of the public speakers. Next, we'll go to the division members. One is declared an interest, which is Tony. Which is fine. So, Edric, it's your turn.
I've always got a quandary on these where I get, spoken to by both sides. So I can appreciate the pub's view, and also I can appreciate the view of neighbours, particularly when a pub's been there for a long time. People say, well, you bought a house next to a pub. But I can also appreciate the noise and the upset and the harm this causes Mr. Simmons. I'm not quite sure where to go on this one. I'm actually going to listen to the debate and see what other people do. I'm really not sure what to do. I need to listen carefully. I can appreciate it causes lots of upset to one person, and even though it's only one person, should we discount that person? Because everyone's got a right to exist in harmony together. So I need to see what other people come up with.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Edric. And the first one is Martin D.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there's a removal of two conditions here, not one. I mean, it might be that we might consider that either or of these conditions might be appropriate or not, mightn't it? So, I mean, looking at the evidence we've been given, I can see. I think my own reservations are about the parking and the positioning of the bins. I'm less worried about the delivery hours as long as they're reasonable and they're not sort of arriving at 4 a.m. And a lot of this seems to be about business and the movement of business rather than actually about planning in terms of the objections. So they're just my observations on it. Like Edric, I'm not sure. I'd like to hear more of the debate from others that perhaps know the area better than me.
I'm done. I've got another one to come first. Martin, legal advisor, please, first.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up the comment that was made there. This is an application under Section 73 to amend conditions, but what you're actually doing, if you accept any part of the application, is granting a new planning permission with a new set of conditions. So you are at liberty to look at what's being proposed in terms of removal of those conditions or change of those conditions, but come to your own view on what you think are reasonable conditions for this activity. So, for example, you could agree with one of the conditions being removed and not the other. You could reimpose that one. Or you could look at the timings in those conditions, and you're at liberty to put different timings. So you have got that flexibility. I don't know whether that was the point that Tessa was going to make. Just while I'm speaking, the other matter I wanted to raise was that reference in one of the public speaking to prescriptive easements. That's civil matter. That is a private matter between the parties. That's not relevant to your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And Tessa, I don't believe you wish to come in now, or do you?
No, Martin covered everything.
Okay, thank you. Martin's covered that. So who was next to speak, please? Phil?
It came on, went off again. Sorry about that. Yeah, I know this area really, really well. I was the ward councillor for 16 years there, and Mr. Gate was the councillor before me. So between us, and now Edric's the councillor. So there's three of us in the room that know this really, really well. I'm going to take each condition separately. Firstly, the one around hours. It's a known fact we're losing public houses like no tomorrow at the moment, and they need all the support we can give. And I think in this day and age, to restrict the hours of delivery is ridiculous. There are people that live in places like Cranmore and Doting. They've got tarmac lorries going through day and night and stone lorries going to Hinckley, and they weren't even consulted about it, and they're kept awake every night. So to me, this is a restriction that we should not be dealing with anymore, and I would fully support that being removed. Regards the dustbins in the car park, etc. If we go back to Colton's diagram of the car park, there's a triangle in the corner where the dustbins and the bins used to be, which is not a car parking space. I don't know if you'd like to show that, Colton. It's distinctly there. The bins and the empty beer barrels were stored there for 100 years or more. And now suddenly it's not allowed. The pictures you received are the pictures just after COVID, when the recycling people and the refuge people were running out of lorry drivers, and there was pickups, or one or two pickups missed. So we're dealing with photographs totally out of date. The way we've got over this problem for a little while has been they've moved the bins to the other side of the road under the restaurant windows. Now, how ridiculous is it to have waste bins underneath the windows of a restaurant? Not only that, it puts the bins in the road where the lorries have got to stop in the middle of the road to put the bins into their lorry. When they're in the car park, they get back into the car park off the road in safety, and the refuge men could work in safety and load their lorries. So to me, all this is totally ridiculous. And if you look at that, where it says Egford Hill, you'll see there's a triangle missing in that car park, and that's the area where the bins and the barrels normally go. So it's nothing to do about car parking spaces at all. Take it a step further. Back a few months ago, we approved the new car park up the road, which is about to be started very soon. And we could actually say, go to the point, if we can't remove this condition today, we could remove it once that car park's open.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Barry, you're next.
I've been involved with this with Philip for some time because of the car parking is actually in our division. and the pub is in Edrich's division. And I think we talk about applications and benefits and harm. I cannot see that the harm outweighs the benefits of this, which is the hub of the village. It provides lots of necessary services. It's a shop, it does all the sort of things, it's a meeting place. And I think if you weighted the complaints by numbers against the benefits by numbers, because although this sounds like an absolute hellhole down here, we've actually got a catalogue of complaints from one address. So everybody in Holcombe, as far as I can see, when we were looking at the car park, we didn't find any objectors to what was going on down at the pub or what was proposed for the car park. So I think this is something that we should just pass by and let things carry on until the proper car park is finished up the hill. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Barry. Now, Claire, yeah, I think you were first. Oh, hold on a second. Tessa wishes to come in.
Thank you for your comments. Just to come back on just one of those points in terms of the benefits outweighing the harm, it's not the same test that we take under the Power 11 test that Martin referenced earlier today. What you need to be satisfied in terms of amenity, although it is one resident, is that this development does provide for protection of those amenities of that existing resident. I think the policy states that, the development will protect the amenity of its users with neighbouring buildings. So that's what you need to satisfy yourself with the open-ended delivery hours, or as Martin suggested, thinking about, well, they may need to be before 7, but actually is 24-hour delivery hours really reasonable or not? So that's the consideration members really need to have now.
Right, thank you, Tessa. Claire, you're next, I believe.
Thank you. Telling a business when and where their bins can be collected, I think is restrictive rubbish.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. Benty, I believe you wish to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I don't like help closing down pubs. Pubs are struggling enough as it is, and when you are a pub out in a rural area, you do many services, and that is fine. However, I cannot stand rubbish bins. If you took a walk in Shepton Mallet and saw what some of the flat people have got to live with outside their front door, and I have been looking at these photos, and it makes me terrified because they come with rats, and rats as bigger than big dogs. And it shouldn't be in 2024 that anybody had to live like that. I don't know much about this pub's deliveries. If I was working night and just come home, gone to bed, and then bang, bang, ding, ding, I think I would go and scream my head off. So that is really, but it's something that should be sorted between the people that live there. I don't live there, but I would not like to put in restrictions for pubs because the licensing should put the restriction and not me as a councillor. So I'm not helpful at all, Councillor Hobbs. I'm very sorry, but this is my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Benty. Edric, I don't think anybody else wishes to make a comment, so it's back to you if you'd want to make one or not. No, no more comments from you. So I'll need a proposer and a seconder, please. Martin D.
Can I make a comment first? I'm just throwing this out there to other. Is there any mileage in us keeping condition 3, but actually increasing the hours to say 6 until 8, and maybe accepting deliveries on bank and public holidays? Because I mean, pubs do a lot of trade on those. I mean, how do people feel about that?
Okay, Tessa, is that okay? Or should we go to Karen? Yeah, you go to you.
The applicant who made his presentation seems to suggest that there were never any deliveries before 6 o'clock in the morning. And that seems to be confirmed from our enforcement team with regard to messages from the complainant that very seldom is it before 6 o'clock in the morning, if at all.
If I may, Mr. Chair, yeah, I mean, what I heard was that sometimes turn up early. I think I heard that, but just allowing some leeway for that, but maybe I misheard. But I'm satisfied with that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Conrad. Tessa, your turn.
I was just going to make one more suggestion that members could defer it for the applicants to submit an operational statement, which would tie them down to 6 till 8. But it was also commit them to ensuring that for example, delivery drivers turn their engines off, don't have music on, etc. in the morning. So it does reduce that noise, no reversing alarms. Whilst this applicant or an operator may operate in a good manner, they may not own this forever, and this does go with the land. So if they submit an operational statement, it may give the neighbour more comfort that there are measures in place, but also the applicant that comfort that they can operate at those longer hours. So that's just something for members to consider.
Councillor, sorry.
Okay.
Chair.
Yeah, I'll come back. Claire, yeah.
I will, please correct me on this, but why are we dealing with one person? So when we had the previous planning application, we talked about feedback from only 2 people, and it wasn't considered that much of a weight. And now this one person, it's as if this one person is in the room, and we've got to kind of deal with, is this a complaints discussion, or is it?
It's simply making the decision in line with development plan, which talks about protecting immunity of existing occupiers. They're an existing occupier that lives next to this property. They will be the most effective. So whether it's 1 or 100, the policy still seeks to protect their immunity.
But we keep referencing this one person.
It's because it's the nearest occupier, I presume, that's obviously raised the complaints because they are the most impacted upon. And it's not just to protect them, it's to protect the surrounding occupiers.
But that's not being said. That's not being said. It's just, I just find it confusing that it's just this one person, and we're looking to kind of, come up with a solution for this one person. And I find that quite odd. We've not done that before since I've been on the board.
I don't think it's any different than, for example, if you're building an extension next to a property, you safeguard their immunity through loss of privacy overshadowing. This is the same. You're protecting the most affected occupier by noise and disturbance. So it's the same perfectly sound planning.
Sorry, can I just come back? But then isn't that really a discussion in another licensing rather than here? Oh.
Okay. Tests. Right, thank you, Martin. I think you wish to come in.
Yes, just following on that debate, it's not about the numbers of objectors or numbers of supporters. It's about the weight of the argument that they're bringing to the debate. And if one person is adversely affected by a development, then you as councillors must give that due weight or consideration, even though there may be a number of supporters of the proposal, which there are in this case. If the impacts upon that one individual outweigh the benefits, then you should take that into account when you come to your decision.
Right, thank you, Martin. I think I'm just going to ask. I don't know if it makes much difference. Emma, you're there online, aren't you, from Highways? Have you got any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I had raised my hand actually. The Highway Authority would be very reluctant to allow the removal of condition 9, certainly up until such time that the overflow car park is constructed. I note that the previous comments regarding the triangle area, that triangle area isn't actually covered by that condition, because that condition only covers the marked out car parking spaces on the drawing. So that triangle would not actually be covered under the condition. I believe that in past circumstances, the bins and barrels aren't necessarily restricted just to that triangle area, and I think that's where the issue has arisen. But the Highway Authority would be very reluctant to support the removal of any parking area until such time that the overflow car park was constructed.
Okay, thank you, Emma. I think Susie, you wish to come in now.
Yeah, can I just be irritating and say, I don't remember your name. What was your name? Sorry. I think the points that Tessa mentioned earlier about putting some restrictions around the types of noise that could happen would be really useful. I think that to say from 6 o'clock would be really useful. And I think to say from once this new car park's up and running, I think that if we do those things, we're being quite balanced and fair. We're trying to address the needs of everybody. Obviously, everything people have said about the need to run a business, the needs to keep pubs open, blah, blah, blah. Who's not going to agree with that? We all agree with that. However, noise pollution is significant. It doesn't really matter if it's one person, if it's you, you'd get it. And I just think if we do the things that Tessa suggested, then we're at least protecting that for this individual or any other people who end up living in the immediate environment of where these deliveries take place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, Phil, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I did, Chair. I'd just like to question Emma from Highways. She's saying that triangle is not part of the car park. It's only overflowed out of that triangle when Somerset Council have let the applicant down on collecting his rubbish. And secondly, he's been made to put the bins the other side of the road, on the side of the road. So she's now saying it's safer for the refuse people to work in the middle of the road on a bend rather than collect rubbish out of the car park. Now, we're not just talking about one household bin, we're talking about several big bins. It's not a 2-minute job. And we're putting people at life in the middle of a dangerous road on a bend because the bins are in the wrong place. So I question her. I know what she's saying on one hand, but she's not looking at the other hand.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Can I have a comment from Emma, please?
There was a comment. I think, Martin, you wish to come in, or Emma first, then Martin. I was going to go the other way around. But Emma, would you like to come back first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not suggesting anything of the sort that it's safer either way or the other way. What I clearly stated was that the condition itself does not cover the triangle area. I don't know why or if or when or how often the owner of the I'm going to call it a pub, it's more than a pub, of the Duke of Cumberland is let down by their waste collection. That's not for me to determine. Where I am as a highways officer is that this application originally was given this condition because the parking provided was at the very lower limits of what was acceptable. The number of parking spaces is therefore quite tight, very tight, I think we'd say, which is why the overflow car park is required. The frequency of rubbish collection versus the frequency of those car parking spaces needing to be parked in by cars, I think is possibly a debate for another time potentially. But the frequency of the bin collection needs to be considered.
Okay, thank you.
I've made my point there.
Yeah, you made your point. That's good, well made. Martin, legal. I think you wish to.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just to pick up comments that were made earlier by Councillor Hart and Councillor Dimmery about your scope for approving this, but with different conditions. I think what was suggested is that condition 3 could be changed to allow deliveries at 6 o'clock, or between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. Not on Sundays, but delete reference possibly to bank holidays and public holidays. And then deletion of condition 9 in its entirety, but subject to the new car park being first brought into use. So that's, I think, what you were suggesting, Councillor Hart.
Also with the points that Tessa made about turning off the engine, not playing music. The thing is, it's as I think the owner of the pub mentioned, I think was that it's the odd occasion when a different driver comes along who hasn't read all that. It's one of these things that you can never enforce for everything in life, can you? We can aim for the best, but it'll be the odd person that doesn't do it because they haven't read the stuff. And then that's the odd person that pushes the people living in this particular dwelling close by over the edge, I guess.
If members are so minded, you could ask for an operational plan to be submitted as well.
Yeah, Tessa, would you like to?
Yeah, that could either be done pre the issuing of the decision or as a discharge of condition. It might be sensible to do it, yeah.
Okay. Did we have any more speakers at the moment? Martin D.
No, yeah. I just wanted to say I agree with what Martin said there. I like the sound of that, the adjusting condition 3 as he pointed out. I think there's an element of compromise in this. I think condition 9, I think the bins, it sounds to me from those that know the area well, the bins are better off in the allocated space across the road. But I agree entirely with the view that that car park that we agreed on in December, I think it was, should actually be constructed before these conditions are lifted or adjusted. So I would put that forward as a proposal.
Okay, that sounds so. Susie,
I'll second it.
you'll second it. So we have a proposal.
Benty wants to speak.
Benty, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just one thing. No lorries can drive around in the landscape on public highway or anywhere without having a reversing bleeper. Now, I can imagine that if I was vicious and I saw a lorry reversing without the bleeper on, that I will report it, most certainly to the owner of the lorry. So therefore, we cannot just willy-nilly stop vehicle in what they're supposed to be doing according to the law of heavy-duty transports.
Thank you, Benty, for that that knowledge that you brought forward there. You're good with knowledge. Okay, so do we have Edric? You wish to come back in?
Is there any reason in the future the big bins could be stored in the new car park? Although I appreciate, I mean, walking rubbish up the road. I'm just trying to think of ways of appeasing everybody. I'm just. No, I'm just trying to look at ways of not falling. Don't laugh at me when I'm trying to make a point, please.
Phil, you wish to come back?
I'm going to propose that we, get the right words, that we take the proposal to remove both conditions. I'd like to put that forward as a proposal with no amendments.
Chair, you've got a substantive motion already proposed and seconded. So Chair, I'd advise that you take a vote on that proposal. If that proposal falls, then Councillor Ham's proposal, just to approve the application as it is, can then be put.
If I had a seconder, wouldn't my proposal go first, as it's what has been it's the approved recommendation from the planning officer?
It's no, the recommendation from the planning officer is to refuse. So it goes in the order that the motions are put. So if there isn't a majority for Councillor Dimery's proposal that's been seconded, then you could move and put that proposal again, Councillor Ham.
Okay, do we all understand that one? Oh, I think. Okay, I think Councillor Sully wanted to say something first, though.
I was going to second the proposal by Councillor Ham, but I don't need to.
Okay, we'll bear that in mind. Benty.
All I wanted was to hear Councillor Dimery's proposal again, please. By either you, Mr. Chairman, or the legal advisor, just somebody would they please repeat.
Martin has written it down, so let
Through you, Chair.
Through me. Martin, yeah.
Thank you. So it's to approve the application, but firstly, there needs to be submission and approval of our operational plan in relation to deliveries. In terms of condition 3, that is changed to allow deliveries between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m, not on Sundays, but deliveries allowed on public and bank holidays. The removal of condition 9 in its entirety, but all those things only to come into effect on the bringing into use of the new car park.
Can I just
Martin.
confirm that? That's exactly my confirmation. But I thought Councillor Ham actually said that when he was suggesting that these conditions be dropped after the car park has been completed. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to get his one right before we move.
Absolutely right, Martin. D. Martin L, isn't it? Yes, your turn.
Could I just go check with the legal advisor the first part of how you read that out, which is the conditions? Can we get a flavour of what might be in those?
Yeah.
The operational plan, can we get a flavour for, I think that's quite important to know what before I take a vote on them.
That would just have kind of, I guess, outline in terms of confirmation that the engines will be turned off, no reversing alarms, which that doesn't have to happen. They don't have to be on in that time in the morning. Music will be off, engines will be off, things like that. So just confirm that will happen. It may be in the hours between 6 and 9. All those things have to be in place. So it's just giving extra safeguards, say not just for the current applicant, but for future owners of the site if they indeed move on.
Okay, thank you. Did everybody understand what Tessa's just said, Martin? Yeah?
Yes.
Yep, you're okay. Right. Do we have any last comments before we go to the vote on Martin D's and Susie? Susie, you wish to say
Just a very
something?
quick question for Barry or Phil or anyone else who happens to know. Is that car park actually under construction or imminently under construction? The new one? Okay, so it is going to happen in the near future. Thank you.
Well, I think it's been answered. The question's been answered. Okay, so, Claire.
I just feel quite concerned if we to echo what Councillor Height said, if we're instructing the switching off of safety sounds and things like that. I just think it's just getting very ridiculously micromanaging, but safety of those vehicles, they're big vehicles. And I think that how is it going to be enforced? The noises of a radio. I've never heard a radio. When the bin people come, they're efficient. They just come do their job and off they go. So I feel like it's just details. Well, I think switching off the beep 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 beep. Why would we do that? Why would we? What if someone's walking behind it? Well, I think we're going probably too far with this.
Okay, thanks, Claire, for your observations.
It sounds to me like we can't make that condition, therefore that's not part of my proposal.
Right, thank you. So that should make you feel a little bit happier, Claire. Okay, so are we ready to go to the vote?
Sorry, we've changed something, have we?
No, I don't believe anything's been changed.
The condition is a perfectly standard condition that's used by inspectors, etc., across the country. So I'm confident that condition is reasonable. But it's obviously up to the
proposer.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it is reasonable to use it, but it's up to the proposer.
Yeah, but that's your view, and I've got a different view.
It's a professional judgment which inspectors across the country do use that condition.
Okay, but we know that road is not a really great road. We know that people have to walk out in the road. So we could talk about this till the cows come home, but it's up to the proposer. I thought you were removing it. Are you removing the beep, 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 beep on?
I was under the impression we couldn't do that. Now I've been corrected. So that's what I said.
Okay, well,
I'm not actually. I agree with you, Claire. I think that actually if we are allowing lorries to come in, yes, they must have the right to do that. But I was reassured that actually there aren't any deliveries before 7, only in very exceptional circumstances. So I'm quite satisfied with that. We've extended the hours a little bit to compromise, to accommodate any early deliveries that happen to turn up. I would like the landlord to actually maintain respect for the rest of the villages by ensuring that as much as possible the lorries do turn up after 7 o'clock. And that's at his discretion. So I'm not changing anything now.
Thank you, Martin. I think Susie wishes to come back in.
I just think Bente will probably answer this, but it looks like from the pictures and the information we've been given, they aren't massive lorries with the beep, beep, beep. they're kind of smallish vans that I don't think have the beep, beep, beep. Maybe, yeah, he's nodding. I think it's all fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I think we're getting down to nitty gritty. Shall we ask Martin to read out the proposal once more?
Well, I think I just need to clarify in terms of the operational plan, the submission and approval of that. Are the proposer and seconder now dropping that requirement or still requiring that? Because everything else is the same as I said previously. It's down to the proposer and seconder between the two of you as to whether you want that to be part of it or not.
I'm satisfied that won't be an issue, that the lorries for safety reasons can maintain that, because I'm satisfied that there won't be major deliveries happening before 7 o'clock in the morning, and I am trusting the applicant and the better knowledge around this table than mine to ensure that doesn't happen.
I'm guessing that Tessa said it in the first place because it's not just about this particular person who's running the pub and this particular individual that we keep referring to who complains a lot. I think it's about kind of having a situation that works for everyone moving forward. I'm guessing, but I mean, I'm hoping Tessa can answer.
Yeah, that's correct. It is it goes with the land effectively, the permission and the condition. So members just need to be satisfied if they don't have that condition that the neighbouring amenity will be safeguarded.
In that case, Chair, if the seconder doesn't wish to drop that requirement, yes, Councillor Dimery does, but you need to both agree. Otherwise, we're going with what I set out previously, because both the proposer and seconder need to agree to the change.
Okay.
I'll drop the requirement. I want to go home.
I will ask for someone else to be a seconder. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
No.
Unless there's an agreement as to a change in the proposer, it goes as I previously set out. So the proposal would be with the operational plan as part of it. Obviously, members can vote however they wish to on that proposal.
Okay, Barry, I'm going to bring this to an end now because we've wasted a lot of time, or not wasted, but we've had a lot of comments. Would you like to make a comment, a final comment?
Okay. Is Susie withdrawing her seconding of Martin's proposal? No.
No, Susie can't do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Let's changes it.
Right, so we will go to a vote. Now, do members require that Martin at Legal here rereads the proposal before we start?
Yes,
before
please.
We vote?
I would like clarification for the minutes as to whether the operational plan is happening or not. Thank you.
Yes, Martin.
Thank you,
please.
Chair. So to approve the application, but subject to these caveats, the submission and approval of an operational plan, a change in condition 3 to allow deliveries between 6 AM and 8 PM, not on Sundays, but to allow deliveries on public and bank holidays. The removal entirely of condition 9, but both that subject to the first bringing into use of the new car park.
Okay, everybody happy? Everybody understand and know what they are voting for? Okay, we will now take the vote. All those in favour of Martin's proposal, please put your hands up now.
7.
All those against? 1. Abstentions? 1. Okay, thank you. Martin and Susie's proposal is carried. Thank you. Okay, now we've done that, we've got on, I think, a little bit of work for maybe Tessa to do now, of talking about our appeal decisions.
Yeah, I think there's just.
Or do you want them just to be noted?
Just noted, there's just one on there, which was for 3 caravans retrospective on an industrial estate, which was dismissed.
Okay, thank
technical
you.
grounds.
Are members happy with that? Just to note? Right, but before we go home, I'd just like to make sure that everybody's aware that this is Tessa's last meeting. She is moving on to pastures new and new challenges. So I think we should give her a clap, don't you? Because she's been really good.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. And we all wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Not that you'll need it.